welcome to the continuation of our board meeting for October 28, 2014. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Lum, would you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, sir. The substitutes for tonight, we only have one, and that is Brianna Bendati from Corporate College, representing Jean Giovannini. Welcome. And I'd also like to welcome a group of students from ASU from Dr. Maria Hesse's class. We'd like to have you all stand and say hi. Amazing what you can accomplish when you got a grade attached to it, huh? Moving on, we'll do student life reports from Glendale Community College Association of Student Government, Rico. Rico Moran.
Yes. Good evening, members of the governing board, Dr. Glasper, presidents, and Dr. Kovala. We are the Associated Student Government from Glendale Community College, and I am the president for this academic school year. We are thankful for this opportunity to talk to you about our past and what will lie ahead. We are too concerned about enrollment trends, dwindling or insufficient resources, completion agendas, student engagement, and strategic direction from a student's perspective. Our student government is housed within the Student Leadership Center, and this last year alone, we touched the lives of over 33,000 stakeholders, internal and external. Last year alone, we would like to share some of our experiences and the insight with you this evening. Please allow me to introduce my Vice President, Buddy Lee.
Student governance at Glendale Community College is more than merely a funding source for our student organizations and campus events. We serve on many internal committees, such as permanent hire committees, and serve on district councils, such as the one for men. We helped plan and facilitate the men conference that we had this past spring at Glendale Community College. Please allow me to introduce our treasurer, Victoria Moreno.
Student life at GCC is robust and vibrant with possibility. Our student organizations plan trips that have meaning, such as competitions, conferences, and conventions, and host events that engage our student and employee populations in activities and causes that reach far beyond the borders of our college. Most recently, our Amnesty International has partnered to present a week-long series of activities to address the issues of human trafficking. One of the reasons behind their creativity and innovation in the caliber of their activities is our unique funding structure and generosity of our campus leadership, and their valuing their engagement by making us a priority of the college. As a participant in the Student Public Policy Forum, I can attest to the opportunities that are made available to student leaders. Please allow me to introduce our Secretary, Jessica Mateo.
Participating in district initiatives play a large role in what we do. Everything from supporting in Breathe Easy, participating in Unite, encouraging completion amongst our peers, supporting and participating in MEN, chapter activities, and initiatives to sustainability and the environmental concerns in relation to reducing our carbon footprints is supported through ASG. In addition to all of these things, we have our own events, activities, and initiatives at our college level, and even within our own group. As if that isn't enough to keep us busy, we are students first. Academics come first because our one true goal is to come out on the other side of this educational journey as educated. That said, I would like to introduce our Public Relations Officer, John Gardner-Daniel.
Several years ago, when the Student Leadership Center opened its doors, there were 23 student organizations on campus, and a student government that struggled to obtain and retain a full student board. 6 years later, there are 60 clubs and a thriving and engaged student population, and our student government now has no trouble holding a full student board well above the 2.0 GPA requirement. We have grown from merely attending conferences, workshops, and retreats to hosting and facilitating them. Most recently, we participated in planning and the execution of a 3-day leadership retreat where we facilitated the opening games, a full workshop, community service project and served as staff throughout the weekend. To conclude our presentation this evening, I would once again like to introduce our president, Rico Moran.
Thank you. I would like to thank you again for allowing us this opportunity to talk to you about our past year and to welcome you to attend our annual Civility Week series of presentations and activities. Civility Week at GCC addresses what it means to be a global citizen living within civil society in today's complicated world. Unfortunately, we did forget our schedules, so they are located on our GCC website, so you guys can look them up on there. And we would like to leave you with one last parting thought, and that's as we head toward the spring semester, with all that it holds in lightning speed, may everyone's journey be problem-free and clear sailing. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the spring semester. Thank you.
Thank you. And I looked that up, and your schedule for the week is on your internet site.
Very good job. I mean, you guys were well organized and did a good presentation, and actually we got the schedules on the email too, so we're aware of everything.
Next on the agenda, under item 4.1, Dr. Sherry Olson from South Mountain Community College and the recognition for an award.
Thank you, President Saar. May I at this time ask our two faculty members to approach the podium? I want to introduce two of our business faculty members who have been instrumental in dramatically increasing South Mountain Community College's entrepreneurial presence and scope both locally and nationally, Bruce McHenry and Maria Benson-Bailey. Bruce has been the linchpin in securing tens of thousands of dollars worth of grants for SMCC's entrepreneurship program and did so yet again at the NACCE conference earlier this month, where he and I successfully secured another $15,000 Coleman Foundation grant to develop even more student entrepreneurial opportunities at South Mountain. Maria joined SMCC just 2 years ago, and in addition to learning the Maricopa Way and teaching state-of-the-art business classes, has already dedicated countless hours to student pitch competitions and networking events for our local community. Bruce and Maria, would you share the good news?
Good evening, President Saar, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, members of the CEC, and guests. I'm here tonight as the bearer of excellent news. My name is Maria Bailey Benson, and I am residential business faculty at South Mountain Community College. And the good news that I have to share is that 2 weeks ago today, the NACCE conference was held here in Phoenix, Arizona, the National Association of Community College Entrepreneurship. And of the 4 awards that were granted for student entrepreneurs, we received 3 of those awards. So we took second place with a bookkeeping service by the name of Lady D's Bookkeeping. She's a student that was a member of our spring cohort from the Coleman Grant. Unfortunately, she's unable to be here tonight. She's traveling. We also took we took third place. We had 2 ties for third place. One of which is here with us tonight. I have Gus Barnes. Could you stand, please, Gus? Gus Barnes is the owner of AZ180.com. And AZ180.com is a referral service for small businesses. And then we also had another winner who also could not be here tonight, and that is Loveland Omari, who owns a braiding service. So we are very proud of our students, and it's an honor to be here to discuss their success.
President Saar, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, members of the CEC, and honored guests. I am Bruce McHenry, economics faculty at South Mountain Community College. I am the entrepreneurship champion on that campus, and I have 2 pieces of good news. As Dr. Olson said, we had another grant opportunity at this year's NACCE conference. It was an interesting opportunity in that it required direct involvement of the president. So Dr. Olson and I made a pitch together for about 10 minutes to a panel of judges from the Coleman Foundation, and we successfully won our 4th grant at the last 3 NACCE conferences, another $15,000 grant that we will use to continue to support student entrepreneurship. So on that one, congratulations again to all of the folks here. I have one final announcement that in addition to that grant, Dr. Olson was named as the NACCE 2014 Entrepreneurial President of the Year. So please recognize that. And a final note, I was here last year. I had the privilege of telling the board about winning last year's grant. That grant last year funded a small venture capital fund in which we gave out seed money awards to students. Those 3 students that you heard about tonight were 3 of the students in that spring cohort. That is the impact of that money driving forward to create businesses. Diana Monell, Lady D Bookkeeping, has told us she's launched 6 months ago. She's already going to hire somebody. We call that workforce development. So that's the impact of entrepreneurship. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I attended that conference as well, and it's always amazing to see how much community colleges can do in the entrepreneurship and starting new small businesses, along with a lot of other things we do here for that. That's a big plus, so congratulations. Yes.
One of the things I want to thank you too is by the work that you do, you are the American dream builders. That is the American dream. You go back in history, and as a library card holder for the Library of Congress, I've gone back and read a lot of history. And you go back and read diaries and letters and the opportunities and the attitudes about what the first definition of American dream, it had nothing to do with working for a big box store. It had nothing to do with any of the things that some people think it meant. It did not mean a house with a white picket fence. It did not mean a car on the drive and a car in the garage. It meant being able to be your own boss and set your own destiny. This is it. Thank you. Nobody does it better than community colleges.
Remember that, ASU students, it's a start. All right, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the citizens interim. We have several of them here tonight. Remember, we've got a 5-minute limit. And I'll call on the first one is Cleopatra Martinez.
President Saar, can you hear me? Members of the Governing Board, Chancellor Glasper, members of the CEC, honored guests, and members of the community. On August 13th, 2014, I emailed you a grievance. As of today, I have heard nothing in response. According to the RFP, grievances at your level need to be responded to within 30 days of receipt. I request that the matter of my suspension be an executive session item at the next meeting of the Governing Board. The reason I'm pursuing this matter is that it is the most recent example of the conduct that I have been experiencing since 2009. And in January, I will have been with Maricopa Colleges for 30 years. In August of 2013, the Phoenix College administration attempted to terminate me for copyright violations, cash handling violation, and insubordination. I appealed pursuant to the residential faculty policies, that's the RFP. In December of 2013, the MCCD Internal Termination Hearing Committee found that MCCD had not met its burden of proof with respect to copyright violation and cash handling violation and recommended that I not be terminated. The Chancellor then suspended me in March 2013 without pay for over 14 months for my alleged insubordination. In May 2014, I applied for unemployment compensation. MCCD advised the Department of Economic Security, DES, that I should be denied unemployment compensation because benefits because I had walked off the job in anticipation of termination and because I had been suspended for gross misconduct, both untrue. Initially, the DES denied my claim, but on appeal, the DES administrative law judge decided in my favor. Among other things, the administrative law judge wrote in his decision that 1, I did not sell the documents or otherwise make a profit, which was an allegation made. The order to return the money to students was not reasonable, And 3, that I was discharged, not suspended, as contended by MCCD. And 4, I was not discharged for willful or negligent misconduct. Consequently, MCCD's claims of copyright violation, cash handling violation, and insubordination have not been substantiated by either independent reviewing authority, that is, MCCD's own internal termination hearing committee, or the DES administrative law judge. In order to right this wrong, in July 2014, I attempted to follow the grievance process, which requires that I first present the grievance to the Vice President of Academic Affairs, the VPAA. The VPAA Secretary advised that I could only speak to Human Resources, HR, about the grievance. HR told me I could not file while I was suspended, although I could file the grievance upon my return in August of 2015, some 12 months away. On August 13, 2014, I submitted my grievance to the Vice Chancellor for Human Resources, the Chancellor, and the Governing Board members. No one has responded. There are no substantiated claims against me, but I remain suspended without pay. My grievance has not been addressed. The Governing Board is the final decision maker in the district. I respectfully request that the board immediately make me whole by reinstating me to my former position with back pay to the day I was suspended, reimbursing me for attorney fees and costs, and pay me the dollar value of any and all other benefits I lost as a result of this prejudicial, damaging suspension. And I think also the policy needs to be rewritten so it would not be as dictatorial as it is with respect to the person making this decision. There's a fiduciary, this has been fiduciarily irresponsible, I think, and it must be eliminated. This is not how Maricopa operates. So I ask again, I request that the matter of my suspension be an executive session item at the next meeting of the Governing Board. Thank you very much, members of the Governing Board. If you have any questions, I'm willing to answer.
And we have the document you brought. I'll make sure that that's part of the record tonight.
Okay.
And we'll follow up on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do
You're
have a
welcome.
technical, no conversation, just technical. Suspension was, you were suspended on what date?
Initially on March 1st, 2013, and then it was changed to April 15, 2013. That's without pay.
Okay, March of 2013?
And then it was changed to April of 2013.
So were you paid during March to the April?
When it was changed, then I was paid, and my without pay began on April 15, 2013,
And the suspension was for 1 year?
until August of 2015, so more than a year,
Without pay?
without pay. And the administrative law judge said that's not suspension, that's a termination. It's too long. And that document is available to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is Santos Vega. Welcome, Mr. Vega.
President Starr and Dr. Glasser and Board of Directors and fellow citizens. I came here to speak on behalf of mathematics professor Cleopatria Martinez, who taught for 30 years in Phoenix College. She lost her teaching position based on accusations that subsequent investigations and judgments found her not guilty of any one of the accusations. Evidence proved her innocent. Therefore, to continue to keep her from working is an injustice. She appealed her accusations, and the district did not find her guilty. During the time of this ordeal that she was suspended, she applied for unemployment to pay for her home and her food. She went to court, and her charge was unsubstantiated. Yet, the governing board won't hear her case. This is like an unjust termination without adequate cause. The suspension has gone for over a year. It should be ended, and Professor Cleopatra Martinez should be reinstated to her former position immediately. I petition you to do what is fair, the right and just thing to do. Students need her back in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vega.
Okay.
Next is Dr. Charles Tousell.
Mr. President, I think the last time I was here, I told you I was sick. I'm still sick. But I'm concerned about an injustice to Dr. Martinez. I didn't know anything about Dr. Martinez when I first came to this board. I came to this board because I had looked at television one night and I didn't see one black president sitting up there. And I still don't see one black president. Now, some of you might say, well, that's racism. Well, it is racism because there are no blacks sitting up there as a president. You got 12 colleges, I think, in this community college system and not one black president. And I've been working to get blacks involved all of my life, including the chancellor. I've been in this town for 30 years and have worked to make certain that blacks were included in administrative positions all over this county. And it is a disgrace for a community college, an institution of higher education, to be so prejudicial that you can't find one black president. I didn't come here tonight to talk about the president. I came here to talk about two other things. Here's a book that I discovered called Policies of Deceit. It talks about Maricopa Community College District and other districts in the county and across this nation. It is the most revealing book that I have ever read about education, and I have been in education all of my life. I'm 80 years old. I probably am on my deathbed with congestive heart failure. But I'm not going until I have had the opportunity, and I may have it tonight, to speak my last breath about injustice. I was trying to talk to Mr. Saar, President Saar, a few moments ago, and two of the board members got up and walked away. And somebody said, well, you got to talk to the attorney. The voters in Maricopa County didn't vote for an attorney. They voted for you, hoping that you would carry your own head. I called the faculty representative. I believe his name was Keith Hefner. He may be the new one. Do you know, is he the new one or the old one?
New one.
He's the new one. I called him and told him that I wanted to talk with him about Dr. Martinez's situation. He emailed me. I had to leave, first of all, I had to leave the message on the phone. And he said the best way to get in touch with me is through email. So anyway, I emailed him. I emailed him and said I'd like to talk with him about Dr. Martinez's case. He emailed me back and said his attorney had told him that he couldn't discuss Dr. Martinez's case with me. I wrote him back and I said, well, Dr. Martinez has given me the authority to discuss it. I never heard from him. And somebody said something about the board not responding. This board ought to respond. You don't respond to anything. I have asked you to respond to me 1,000 times, and you won't even respond to me. It is an injustice, and all of you people who are sitting around here, you may be faculty members. It can happen to you one day. And these people here who are from ASU, I imagine they're in education, want to see how an educational institution operates. Well, this is the worst place to be if you want to see how a good board operates. You don't need to watch this one. Now, I don't want to be too cantankerous about what I'm saying about the board. You got some good people up there. Most of them up there are good. The last thing I want to say tonight, in District 5, back in the summer, there were 2 people who indicated an interest to serve on this school board. 2 people. At the close of registration, 2 people. One black young man, and that's another thing, you don't have any black board members up there. One black man and one Hispanic applied or got their petition signed so that they could run for a seat on this board. The Hispanic gentleman decided that he would file a charge against this black person because the black person failed to indicate on his petition that the date that this position would be final. That was the extent of that petition. You had to put on there the date that this position would end. So, what happens when you file a claim against one of your adversaries? You got to go to court. So you got to get an attorney. He went to an attorney. The attorney told him $5,000. If we have to take it to the Supreme Court, it'll cost you another $5,000. Now here's a young man, he doesn't have $5, let alone $5,000, to run for a seat for this governing board, because here we have a seasoned politician who knows all the ins and ropes of how you get elected. So now what do we have in District 5? We have one person. And I submit to you that that person is illegitimate to serve on this school, on this board. Illegitimate. Now, if I were...
1 minute, please.
Yes, sir, 1 minute. If I were running, and there were only 2, I would think that since I am a seasoned politician, I would win. This person hadn't run for anything. And he's going to sit on this board and represent me because I'm in District 5. I should have run for it myself. Probably if I hadn't been sick, I would have. The board needs to have some training. And you need to strongly consider what your duties are to your employees. including the chancellor. At some point in time, you might end up firing him. Because we like to fire people. I read in the paper not too long ago, you fired somebody who was in charge of technology or something. Just firing people all the time. I asked somebody, how many suits have you entertained? They have entertained so many lawsuits they can't even keep up with them. Okay, I'll be back. I'm
Thank you,
not
Mr.
going anyplace.
Appreciate
The
that. Thank
Lord
you.
is with me.
Appreciate your comments.
Thank you, sir. And I
Okay.
think that these people ought to be advocates to get black folks sitting up there and sitting down here.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. We have to move on to item number 6.1, and we have Chancellor's Award.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, it is my pleasure today to follow up on the comments made about Dr. Sherry Olson in terms of receiving her award. That was part of my script. So, but what I'd like to do is ask Dr. Olson if she would just take a few minutes in recognition of her being the recipient of the Entrepreneurial President of the Year Award from NACCE, the National Association for Community College Entrepreneurship, to just talk about the activities that led to your nomination and the presentation of this award. I think the board would be interested to hear about your hands-on approach to that, if you could take a moment to do that, please.
I think probably the evidence that was with us in the faculty and the students that are actively engaged in entrepreneurial activities at the college probably speaks to the reason why I was honored with the award. I didn't know I was nominated, and I was surprised that I received a call late this summer about being the recipient. We've been focusing on providing opportunities for our students that are going to college to not only attend college, but to have an opportunity to experience business in a new way. And we're creating an open learning lab for our students that enroll in entrepreneurial classes to be learning together and developing their businesses together. And as you saw, the one young man was here, but we also had two others that won national awards at this conference. It's just supporting students in having an idea and seeing their idea to fruition, and supporting them. And our faculty are, very engaged in providing these opportunities, and I'm just supporting them. So.
Okay. Well, thank you. The South Mountain Community Entrepreneur Center was designed to engage community and student entrepreneurs. And I think the work that is going on in South Mountain is one that we should take note of. We've had a number of presidents who were involved. I know Dr. Bustamante was involved in the NACCE conference, Dr. Giovannini and Dr. Olson. And as we look at the footprint of entrepreneurship and our relationship, I think it would bode us well to see what's going on around our country. Over the last month, I've had an opportunity to visit a number of cities and towns, and I will tell you one of the leading themes that's going on is small business development. It's a notion of leading cities to work, understanding the relationship of community colleges and their role in bringing about economic change and development, and understand that it's built around relationships, but it's also built around partnerships. And regardless of where you are, the themes are the same. And I believe that the themes are more than just domestic. They are international in nature. And when we look at what's going on at some of our universities, there are more and more centers around workforce, entrepreneurship, engagement, self-help, self-development. And I ask our board, as we begin to think about the outcomes and our goals and our relationship also to our workforce board outcome, but also the civic engagement and how that works in terms of connecting. One of the aspects that we are finding in our community is that many of our employers are looking for this notion of soft skills. they're saying that we do a good job in terms of technical skills, but they are really looking for individuals who come with a basic level of technical skills and that they will continue to work with them and enhance their technical skills. But they need individuals who are able to seek solutions, are critical thinkers. And I ask us to think about our curriculum in the aspects of, and I'll use for an example, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, engineering, energy. We currently have a couple of grants, and I'll pick on Estrella Mountain with the TIAC grant on cybersecurity and energy, where we're talking about stackable credentials of a line worker eventually moving to a bachelor's degree from a four-year institution. The steps are between 6 and 8. You can come in and out of the workplace and get certificates that are stackable and eventually move on to a bachelor's degree. I think we need to look at that curriculum and see where we can infuse the notion of soft skills, whether they come through the areas of humanities and expanding areas of liberal arts. But I believe that that can be our footprint if we can define soft skills in a way that we can actually apply it, deliver it, and convince employers that that is a space that they can feel comfortable that we will deliver and that in many cases they can rely upon. Because I think we do an excellent job in terms of technical skills. And by doing that, I also think we can exemplify the notion of leading cities to work and being a primary leader, not only in Arizona, but nationwide. So I want to congratulate our presidents who were involved in the NACCE conference, and again, Dr. Olson for the work that she's done. And I ask all of us to share more about the work that we're doing, because all of our presidents are doing great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. There's no FEC report tonight, but we'll move on to the Adjunct Faculty Association and Mr. Leo Valverde.
When can we move these back?
President Saar, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, members of the CEC, guests. I am Leo Valverde. I'm pulling double duty tonight. I am president of the Adjunct Faculty Association and also a member of Dr. Hesse's community college class at ASU. I don't think I'm getting any extra credit, though. Tonight, I am pleased to report on a few happenings with the AFA, and specifically, I'm pleased to introduce two college representatives, Dr. Wilfred McFadden from Estrella Mountain and Ahmed Daniels from South Mountain Community College, who couldn't be present tonight, but both of the gentlemen have provided contributions not just to the college level, but also at the district level, and most importantly, to the community for years, which I think everyone in this room is very proud to say. In addition, the AFA is also looking to recruit some college representatives from Phoenix College, Mesa Community College, and Scottsdale as the current representatives move on to other opportunities. The AFA is currently working in conjunction with MCLI for the creation of a district-wide online orientation for new adjunct faculty hires. This is not meant to replace any college orientation. It is meant to supplement those, particularly in the situation when an adjunct faculty member is hired the day before a class starts, an hour before the class starts, or sooner, and also as a resource for them throughout the year. It is our hope that we will have that Canvas class up and running by the fall of next year, and it will also mirror very closely the residential faculty online, or residential faculty orientation as well, so we're not getting mixed signals. Lastly, the AFA has submitted a proposal for a panel presentation at the Academic Innovations Nationwide Conference, which is coming to Phoenix, and the topic of which is adjunct faculty, and the district is also a partnering institution. Again, the topic is adjunct faculty, and it is our intention to have a panel of administrators as well as adjunct faculty and other faculty members. So if you see an email from me or a telephone call, chances are I might be asking for your help as it relates to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, from the crafts, we've got Mr. Ted George. Good to see you back again.
Well, it's always good to be here. President Saar, members of the board, Mr. Chancellor, members of your CEC, and all you good folks that come here this evening to help conduct business pertaining to Maricopa. Ted George is here on behalf of the Unified Crafts Association, And I don't do speeches well. I had a speech, I remember years ago, I gave a first speech, I finally dropped it and said, I just can't do that. So I usually let the flavor of this proceedings help guide me in what I'm going to say. But I am here this evening to talk about excellence. Now, anybody who is excellent doesn't think of themselves as excellent. They're just, regular folks that do a little extra. It's always been very important to me to watch what goes on at Maricopa, to be allowed to stand up here and speak on behalf of an organization. So if you cut us, we bleed Maricopa. We take great pride in our work, but we also take a greater pride in Maricopa as a whole. And I know a lot of you folks out here and the people that I don't know, I want to thank you for being here, because you may not think you're special, but I think you're all excellent. And since it's going to be a quick meeting, I'm going to get on with it. Therefore, on behalf of the Unified Crafts Association, it is my privilege to make a donation to the Maricopa Foundation for Student Scholarships in the name of the Maricopa County. That's a third C. I kept adding that C. Remember when we first started, it was only CC. We just named it. But now it's the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board.
You better give it to...
No.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate
Thanks,
that.
kids.
Thank you.
I can't reach you, sir. Thank you. You're always a lawyer. Thank you for your service, folks. I appreciate y'all. Really do.
Thank you. We appreciate what the crafts people do, too. We don't get a chance to talk to them that much, so you did a good representation for them.
Thank you.
And we'll make sure that this money is well used.
Dr. Help.
Not by us, but... All right, moving on to the order of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Does anyone wish to remove any items from our consent agenda for this evening? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Under the non-consent agenda, we have 13.1, the approval of proposed policy changes. 4.9 to the board committee structure. This is our second read. We have 3 committees, subcommittees that have been established. Board policy subcommittee, budget and finance, and those subcommittee for the charter schools that we have within our district. And the scope of work is what we've added to the policy. Is there a motion?
I move to accept this item.
Second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? For the audience, a reminder again that we hold a first meeting of the month where we review this entire agenda and have an opportunity to speak not only amongst ourselves, but to the staff that's there to ask questions, to answer questions that we may have. So this agenda has been thoroughly vetted over the course of the last couple of weeks. This is a board item. Hearing no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 13.2, the approval of authorization of expenditures of legal fees. Dr. Glasper?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, it is recommended that the governing board authorize the expenditure of legal fees and expenses in the amount of $1.726850, $1,726,850 through December 31st, 2014 to pay for legal fees and expenses incurred with the law firm of Greenberg Traurig LLP for consultation and representation related to data security issues that arose with the security incident of 2013.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I move approval.
Motion by Mr. Burt.
Second.
Who did I get the second from?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item under consideration tonight is item 14.1, approval of conceptual approval for additions to the John Paul Theater at Phoenix College. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is one of the remaining projects in a large initiative by which the district has brought on performing arts centers at Paradise Valley, Chandler, Gilbert, South Mountain, and soon Estrella Mountain, and also worked on renovations at some of our older PACs, including Phoenix College, and we recommend its approval to bring some improvements to that facility.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I move we accept this item.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve this. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 14.2, approval of job order contracting purchase order to replace mechanical system fan coil units in the North Gym at Phoenix College. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is another significant project at Phoenix College, and it will replace fan coil units that are used to air condition the gym. Obviously, very important to have our gym be air conditioned. The gym was originally constructed in 1968, and there are many issues with these fan coil units, so a repair and replacement is needed. It will result in some asbestos removal, some installation of high-efficiency fan parts, and lower energy use.
I would guess the improvements in energy efficiency have improved over that period of time, I'm thinking. And do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. 14.3, approval of a partial guaranteed maximum price number 1, Phase 1 site work for the new integrated learning building at Paradise Valley Community College Black Mountain Campus. Mrs. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is an additional build-out at the Black Mountain campus of Paradise Valley, and it is part of our planned projects for our 2004 bond program, and we recommend its approval.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Monitoring reports for this evening. The first one is the Budget Analysis Report, Fund 1. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is the budget analysis report for the general fund for the first quarter of the fiscal year through September 30th. As I've reported in the past, we're seeing our expenditures be in the same kind of pattern as in prior years, and that's because most are in payroll, which is every 2 weeks. Our revenues, collections are similar to prior years because our revenues are mostly very cyclical, and we should see a pretty big pickup of revenue collections in October when the first large payment for property taxes comes in.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next one, which is a 2004 General Obligation Bond Series A through D and Series 1304-13 for the 2004 Capital Development Plan Summary as of September 30th, 2014. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is one of our quarterly reports on general obligation bond expenditures. Through the September period, we have issued all of our proceeds, and we have remaining, either that's not been expended or encumbered, about $127.8 million that's available. So we are into our final series of bonds, and we're expecting to expend all of our proceeds within the next couple of years.
Okay. Comments or questions from the board?
No.
Hearing none, moving down to 15.3 is the Budget Analysis Report for the Unrestricted Fund for the 12 months ending last June 30th, 2014. It's the final unaudited.
Mr. President, members of the board, back in July, we provided the board with a preliminary budget analysis report for June, but at that time, there were many closing adjustments that hadn't been made, so it was just preliminary. We're at the moving towards the end of our audit for fiscal 13-14, so we do have final numbers, and they're included in this final report for the full fiscal year 13-14. Our reports during the year and even in the preliminary June are very similar to this final report, where we have recognized almost 90% of expenditures that were budgeted, about 96% of revenues, and we have an increase of fund balance of about $4.1 million. So we did meet our financial stability requirement.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Hearing none, let's move on to the June 30th, 2014 report on the 2004 general obligation bond.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is a report for the full fiscal year as of June 30, 2014. At that point in time, we had $155.3 million that had not been expended or was not encumbered, so that compares with $127.8 in the September period. So we increased our spending or encumbrances by about $30 million, a little short. So you can see some of the pace that we have in spending resources from the bond.
Okay. Comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll move down to the community linkage, where we have our governing board reports. And first of all, Mr. Burke.
Let's see. I was pleased to attend an event at Rio Salado about a week ago. Dr. Rita Ching from Northern Arizona University brought some administrators and staff to Rio, and a number of people from the district had lunch with them and talked about the partnership with Northern Arizona University. It's a very strong partnership. We're very pleased to be able to meet the new president, Dr. Ching, and to just support that relationship. The second meeting was the Student Success Conference last Friday. Wonderful event with lots of people there looking at ways to help students succeed in our classes. And then on Friday, Mr. Lum and I attended the dedication of the Performing Arts Center at Mesa Community College. Beautiful new building, 462-seat auditorium. It's been a long time coming, and the faculty in music and dance were very pleased to finally be able to move into that building.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
Mr. Chairman, I attended the ACCT conference in Chicago. I had the opportunity to go to various presentations and seminars, some of them I think very, very helpful on developmental ed, on frankly the coming tsunami of change in executive leadership in community colleges across the country as a consequence of age. It happens, and it's apparently happening to us too. And so therefore we will expect dramatic change in community colleges across the country, but obviously in Maricopa as well. It was an interesting seminar anticipating what the future holds.
Mr. Lum? I attended the same meetings Doyle mentioned. I want to congratulate Mesa for the new seats, for the new art center, and it's just a beautiful facility with 460 seats. I think that we're contributing to that, the Mesa Arts and that beautiful community, trying to build up the Fiesta Mall area. So that's nice. And my congratulations to Dr. Harper Marinek for the Success Conference. That was awesome. I attended 2 of the workshops and stopped in a few others. And I wish I could attend 10 more. They're all at the same time. They're so interesting. What a dynamic conference. It was the best ever. And congratulations to you and your staff and everybody who worked on it.
I spent last week in Chicago at the ACCT conference as well, and as Mr. Gutierrez said, we learned lots of things that we've heard before, but more importantly, we learned about what's happening throughout the country when it comes to everything that community colleges do. I spent most of my time in those classes regarding occupational and workforce development, so the poor chancellor and Dr. Harper Marinek have been listening to me for the last couple of days with all these ideas. So we'll see what happens over the next year as to how much of those ideas and how much of those success stories that we heard we can implement here in Maricopa. It's an area I think that we've got room for improvement, so I'll keep pushing. And I want to also congratulate Mesa Community College on the opening of their Performing Arts Center. We weren't able to attend because we were in Chicago, but I plan on stopping by and checking that out. And more importantly than anything else about that building, you have 460 seats.
That's nothing for Mesa.
And last but not least, Ms. Pearson.
Thank you. I also attended ACCT, and it was kind of an emotional experience for me. I have been the Pacific Regional Representative for the Anyway.
Spell it out.
It's the Alaskan, Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander Serving Institutions. And, thank you. And then I was also the chair for the organization at ACCT for the past 6 years. And I'm no longer any of those. And resigned, or was, held elections and was replaced. And so that was an interesting experience. Some of the courses that I attended were dealing with poverty and education, which they were discussing efforts that they are doing in certain schools around the country for beginning things like dual enrollment. And so it was really neat to have the opportunity, and this is one of the things that I feel is most important about these conferences, is that it serves as a mirror to help you to see where you fit in the scheme of things. And I think that it helps to create also an appreciation and a respect for all the good that we're doing here. And it makes you take some time and reflect and just appreciate all the good work that goes on here. I think that we always need to take that time and always celebrate all the good things that are happening and all the good things that are done. Now, having said that, the awards for entrepreneurial, I kind of have to be a little bit of a snot and say to all the faculty and those that, when I mentioned this a few years ago, about needing a greater focus on entrepreneurial, nanner. So anyway, and the resistance, we really need to do something about this resistance to change. We really need to do something about this resistance to ideas. And I would really like to thank South Mountain for stepping out and stepping up, and especially in this area, because this is something that community colleges can do better than anyone. And we are the only ones that really can do it right in the way that it needs to be done for making the difference in people's lives that are going to be our small businesses. Entrepreneurial doesn't need to just be business, though. We can teach people in art how they can use that talent, make money, in music, to start their own business, in tutoring, in technology, civic engagement, you name it. There is nothing, no class that is being held that can't encourage someone who is good at English how to set up a tutoring business. Have you ever thought of how you could make a living with just English? Have you ever thought about writing and being a writer? These are entrepreneurial opportunities that we are wasting with every day that faculty resists. The next thing that I would like to talk about, and I would like to challenge, I am not taking a position. I will not take a position. Do not care. Not because I don't care in my heart about people, but because I don't feel that it's my responsibility as a board member, and I find and have a great deal of sensitivity to the integrity of the division of our responsibilities and our obligations in this district for respect for protocols. Having said that, I don't want details, I don't want to talk about details of any particular one case. But having said that, I would like to request that this board secure outside counsel, outside independent counsel, with instructions that there can be no conversation between the same and the district legal. Due to a lawsuit that recently this district has been engaged in that we as a board did not know about, and a ruling has been received and handed down, based on that ruling, and because this board, majority of this board, has not found it appropriate to have an HR committee to take a more serious stand and look at our positions or activities in this district in regards to HR in compliance with our statutory responsibilities. I believe that we need to have outside counsel come and review all of the findings of this lawsuit. And the reason I feel that it needs to be independent with no conversation or communication is because the biased position of district legal, not that that's inappropriate or unethical, as a matter of fact, to the contrary, it's to be expected because that's their job in defending this district. But it now does not represent where the board should ethically be reviewing without bias to the situation. The board must be reviewing if there is an acceptable and appropriate time frame for suspensions as a district policy, and/or if suspensions are used to circumvent due process through attrition tactics, or if the current practice is customary and in the best interest of the district, while respecting legislative intent of our statutory obligations as a board in HR matters. Thank you.
Next item is 17.1, the Vice Chancellor's report. Tonight, we were looking to listen to a presentation headed by Dr. Maria Harper-Marinick.
Thank you, Mr. Saar. Members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, CEC, colleagues, and guests, it is my pleasure to welcome tonight the 2014 class of the WLG Mentor Program. And as a reminder, we have the program in place to support the professional development of the women of Maricopa. This year is, we're celebrating the 15th year of the program. We have 34 mentees representing all of the colleges and the district office. And since the inception of the program, we've had 369 graduates of the mentoring program. It's a great program. A lot of people devote time and effort on a volunteer basis to make it a reality. So I would like the 2014 class of the WLG program to stand so that we can welcome and thank you for participating. Thank you, Mr. Saar.
Thank you, Dr. Harper-Marinick, and thank you for attending. It's a good program. We've listened to it every year, and there's been success in not only getting through the year, but also using what you've learned to advance through the colleges. So congratulations for taking on the opportunity. External community reports, here from Mr. Burke on the AADGB.
I have no report.
Mr. Lum for the School Boards Association.
No report.
I'll talk about the association ACCT. We came back from Chicago safe and sound, and again, it was well worth the time there. We had some great sessions, as were mentioned earlier. Look forward to going to where we go, Washington, D.C. next February. So. Next, and certainly not last, Ms. Dawn Wallace has got a report for us on government relations.
Good evening. Let me cue this up. So good evening, Mr. President, members of the governing board, Chancellor, members of CEC, guests in the audience. Thank you for allowing me to give you a brief government relations update. I'm going to first start with the November 4th elections, which are next week. As you all know, all of our U.S. House seats are up for election. We have 9 congressional districts. 6 out of the 9 are pretty predictable outcomes. We have 3 districts, CD1, CD2, CD9, that have historically been characterized as swing. So we'll have some sense of what happens in those districts come November 4th. Moving on to our statewide elections, obviously for this district, the governor's seat, the superintendent of public instruction, and the attorney general are all offices that we will watch closely over the next week. Moving on to the legislative offices. Most of the legislative offices in Maricopa County are somewhat predictable. However, there are some races that we believe will have potentially some impact should they go a different directions to the makeup of the legislature, and specifically the Senate. We have in Maricopa County 2 districts, LD 18 and LD 28, which are currently have Republicans seated. Should those seats move to Democrat offices and an independent in LD 6 be elected, that could potentially move the Senate into a 15-15 configuration, which some precedent would lead us to believe that the Senate would then be co-managed by Republican and Democrat leadership. So that is certainly an interesting phenomenon should that happen. We have county seats, the county assessor, Superior Court judges, the governing board of this district, and there is a $935 million bond for the Maricopa Integrated Health Systems, which is on the ballot. After the election, once the Secretary of State has canvassed the election, my office will post election results on my website so that if anyone does have an interest in seeing exactly how all the races worked out, they can have one central location to find that. Moving on, there are 3 state ballot propositions, 122 and 303, which were both referendums from the legislature, and Proposition 304, which was referred to the ballot by the Commission on salaries for elected state officers. And what that would do is increase the legislative salary from $24,000 to $35,000 a year. Moving on, a few months ago, I reported to you on the state budget outlook. Earlier this month, the Financial Advisory Committee at the state legislature met and did downgrade the budget outlook just slightly. These are some points that I felt were pertinent from the conversation. First, part of the reason that the state budget outlook has been downgraded is because 2014 revenues came in below projections. That's important. A point that I should make is that there was not negative revenue growth. It's just that when a budget is created, there's an assumption that revenues will come in at a certain amount. Revenues did not come in at projections. In fact, corporate income tax decreased by 13.1%. That's significant. That is one of the 4 main revenue drivers for the state. Some possibilities to why are that corporations have been using tax credits, especially R&D credits, pretty significantly. Many corporations over the course of the recession had accumulated liabilities which are allowed to be carried over from year to year, which would decrease their tax obligation. And something that I'm sure you've heard of in the newspaper, which is that the 2011 tax cuts are coming to fruition, and what the budget analysts have determined is a fiscal impact of $226 million that would be recognized over a 3-year budget period. So bringing all of that into perspective, you could see why possibly corporate income tax would be down. What further has increased the concern over revenues is that the first quarter revenues from this fiscal year have not been fantastic. And the final item is the K-12 litigation. And while that's not a revenue draw, it is definitely an expenditure draw. And so if you have revenues decreasing and you have this liability, you potentially have a significant budget deficit, which I will show you now. These are the estimates that were produced by the Joint Legislative Budget Committee. And really the most significant number is that middle point, which is the October update. You will see that fiscal 2015 is almost a $200 million deficit. What's even worse is that in 2016, it rises to the level of $670 million. When you look at the third bullet point, you'll see that that encompasses the K-12 lawsuit reset. It does not include the retroactive payments. So that is essentially what the legislature will be starting out with come January in terms of where they're going to start their budget preparation. just talking about the K-12 lawsuit a little bit, the reset of the per pupil funding is about $336 million a year. The retroactive payments are potentially $1.3 million. Today was the first day of the 5-day hearing on whether or not the state would be potentially obligated to pay back the retroactive payments. There is some discussion about settlement, but as you can see from the previous slide, even if you were to reduce that $336 million or to somehow draw that $1.3 billion over several years, you still have the deficit owing to the revenue projections. Having said all of that, there are a lot of solutions that the legislature can use to solve the 2015 problem and the 2016 problem. The first tool that they'll use, or the first solution, will likely be the rainy day fund. They've accumulated about $460 million in this fund that can be applied to the deficit. The problem is it's one time and not permanent. So if you think about it, it'll just solve 1 year and then it'll push the costs into the next year. Debt financing, again, that's a solution or remedy that the state used during the recession of 2009, where they essentially mortgaged all of the state buildings. They have acquired the state capitol back, but a lot of the other buildings are still in a financing, are tied up in financing. However, there's one solution in there, which is lottery revenue, and they've used that remedy before, where they have basically borrowed against lottery revenue and used that for operating expenses. But again, it's one time. There's revenue enhancements, and that's generally where you're going to see your creative solutions. For example, I've heard that the legislature may be considering sweeping some of the corpus in the permanent state land fund, which is essentially where all the money is deposited when state trust lands that are held in benefit of K-12 are sold, and that money gets put into this corpus, and then the interest earnings from this corpus are used to take care of M&O for public schools. So if they're considering hitting that fund, I mean, that's a constitutional solution. You'd have to take it to the ballot. But that is a somewhat creative revenue enhancement. Permanent budget reductions, again, that's where we are most vulnerable. Rollovers, this is a clever accounting gimmick where you take your current year expenditures and you shift them to the first day of the next fiscal year, and you basically save some money. Right now, the state has about $900 million in rollovers in K-12, $200 million to the universities. But they could potentially use DES funds or access funds to do more rollovers. And finally, the tax increase, which we've all heard about. Even if it were to go to the ballot, it would only partially solve 2006 because the revenue wouldn't start until the next fiscal year. So moving on, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we requested when we submitted our formal budget request to the state. We have a net increase of about $10 million that we are asking for, and that's primarily in our STEM workforce line. As you can see in the 2015 appropriation, we did get a $1.4 million. I am assuming that we are keeping it for 2016. If we don't, then obviously these numbers will change. Our goal is to work with all of our colleges to put together a package of STEM and workforce-related projects that would total the amount of our request so that we can accompany our very generic request to the governor and the legislature with very specific items that we can justify to them that we are using them to produce, more individuals, more jobs, and people who are ready for potentially advanced post-secondary or for a career. So this is what our plan is for the next session. So One of the things I've noticed in the last year since I've started working for you is that you seem to like presentations. And so I thought that I would take this portion of my presentation where I just tell you all the activities that our office has been involved in and actually present them in a pictorial. So I want to start first with our very successful candidate forums. We held them in the month of September. Thank you to all of our colleges who hosted those events for us. They were just lovely. And what I have here is essentially the links to all of the filming that was done for each of the candidate forums. I will tell you that we have these links on the Center for Civic Participation's website, so if anybody would like to go look at them. We also sent out a district announcement where we included these links so that staff could look as they're considering who they would be voting for in the next election. Moving on, Mesa Community College hosted Congresswoman Kristen Sinema on the 5th of September. She was able to meet with students at the Veterans Center. She toured the Rose Garden, and I believe she also got to visit the C4 Wall, Dr. Pan. And the feedback from her camp was that she really enjoyed her visit. So kudos to Mesa Community College. Moving on, my office funded a group of students from Glendale Community College along with the Vice President of Student Affairs and their faculty advisor to attend a speaking engagement with Vicente Fox, and my understanding is the students really enjoyed them, so I'm glad that they were able to do that. The Chandler Gilbert Coyote opening, grand opening. As you can see from the dignitaries in the picture, we have certainly Mayor Lewis is there, Supervisor Barney was there, I see Mr. Burke, Mr. Gutierrez, the Chancellor. Forgive me, I can't see, but we certainly had congratulations. It was a very well-attended event, and unfortunately I couldn't be there, but as you can tell, everyone was very happy at the ribbon cutting. Scottsdale Community College held the Marshall Trimble Tribute, where you'll see that we got a visit from Senator McCain, so that's wonderful. You might not recognize these two gentlemen, but they're very important to this district. They are our budget analysts. They are our legislative budget analyst, Tom Ritland, and our governor's budget analyst, Brandon Nee. And they visited us. They visited Gateway. Thank you, President Gonzalez. You definitely hosted very nicely. We visited CEI and the Health Science Building, and then we came back to the district and they met with the Chancellor and Dr. Harper Marinick and also Gay Murphy, and they just sort of got the district perspective. You're wondering why the pictures. We did not take any pictures of the event, so I made them send me selfies. And they seem very happy to do so. Paradise Valley Community College hosted its first annual Veterans Summit, and you'll see Vice Mayor Jim Waring in this picture along with President Dale, the Lieutenant General Finley, and Mr. Torres. And Mr. Waring used to be a member of the legislature years ago. My office did a table sponsorship at the Arizona Chamber of Business and Industry Manufacturing Summit. This is a very wonderful table because it was a true collaboration between Maricopa and its industry partners. You'll see Randy Kimmons there with his guest, Joe Rubio, from Valley Interfaith. Leah Palmer, the Manufacturing Institute in Mesa, has her guest. Dr. Clay Goodman from Australia Mountain has Mr. Eddington from APS. Brianna is sitting next to me with her guest, Mr. Wright from Republic Services. So it was a wonderful day. It was a real collaboration between us and our industry partners, and I think they all enjoyed themselves. The Hoop for Learning program, we coordinate a Capitol tour for these students. They visited the Capitol for the first time. They met with Representative Peshlikai, and reports from them is that they are planning to go back next year, so they had a very good time. Along with our budget analysts, and Mr. Gutierrez and Ms. Pearson, you'll know this, the people who do the work at the legislature are really research staff. And so we wanted them to get to know us a little bit better, so we hosted a tour at the Mesa Community College Virtual Incident Command Center. And we got 10 legislative staffers, the research analysts. These are the folks who write the fact sheets, who write the bills. They draft amendments. They present your bills, and they get you in to see legislators. They visited, and we were able to get the 2 research directors who are also the staffers for appropriation. They had a wonderful time. Thank you to Mesa Community College, you're a wonderful host. And they said that, truly they didn't realize what community colleges do in the 21st century. They didn't realize that this is the type of facility that we have, and so it was a great opportunity.
Can you
Yes.
send me that list of those names of those staff people that you met or had with, and whether they're in the Senate or if they're Senate or House staff, please?
Yes, lovely. I don't know if it was Mr. Burke who mentioned the luncheon for Dr. Rita Chang, the NAU president. You'll see the chancellor and Dr. Chang and Dr. Maria Harper Marinix. Again, Rio Salado hosted Congresswoman Sinema, Mayor Mitchell, Councilwoman Robin Ardondo Savage, and Councilman Corey Woods at the East Valley Veterans Center during a clinic, and they appear to have had a wonderful event. Last Friday, the Arizona Get Into Energy Expo hosted at the Arizona Science Center. You'll see Dr. Lara with Representative Dial, Mr. Bemmett, and Mr. Fletcher from APS. And this is a wonderful event at the Science Center. It's a fair for students to come in and learn about energy education, energy careers, and I was lucky to have been invited, so that was a wonderful event. And as you all mentioned, we had the Mesa Community College Performing Arts Center opening. You'll see pictures where Mayor Giles from Mesa, we have Councilman Dennis Kavanaugh, Councilman Luna, Representative Olson is in there as well. And I have to tell you, I was equally impressed at the 460 seats, and it's just a gorgeous facility. That concludes my presentation. I thought you might like to see that. If you indulge me one thing, as I was leaving that Performing Arts Center, had a sort of a deja vu moment, and I realized that when I was a younger person, right out of college, I was working as a financial analyst, and not a job where you really have to talk to a lot of people. And I realized that in my career progression, I was going to have to learn to do this type of activity, and so I didn't remember this until the parking lot, but I took a class at Mesa Community College, a communications class. And about a year after that, I was hired by the governor's office, and I started my career in public service. So I realized after a year of talking about student success, I was actually a successful student at Maricopa Community Colleges. So thank you for the opportunity to tell that lovely story. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, Mr. President, members.
At ACCT, one of the courses that I went to, one of the meetings that I went to, was on the federal legislative issues and legal issues for community colleges. In the one meeting, the discussion about the reauthorization, have you spoke to us about that, or do you follow up on what we're doing and where we are? And the issues that they're having as well at a federal level with getting us like on the different boards that are creating all of the standards and the measurements and all of the different things of that nature. How close are you working with our federal lobbyists and ACCT's lobbyists?
Mr. President, members of the board, Mrs. Pearson, that is actually the main focus of our, as our federal advocacy plan, is to work on the issues that are present in the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act. And what we're trying to do is to go through the act, pull out issue areas that are most impactful to Maricopa, and find ways to work with our congressional delegation to highlight those issues. And so our goal is to work with our federal lobbyists in district utilize the resources of CEC and the Chancellor in collaboration with outside organizations like ACCT or the Higher Learning Commission, who are also interested in some of the key components of the reauthorization, and find ways to advocate on behalf of those issues here in district, as opposed to going to DC on sort of individual issues. So yeah, we are absolutely actively following that legislation and building it into our federal advocacy plan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, Don, they really made a strong plea for us as board members to go back to our district. And while I don't want to put down what has been done, but to change our focus from photo ops to actually engaging in political conversation with these people at all levels, and to get more engaged in campaigns, knowing where and asking direct questions and get familiar with where they are on community college issues like reauthorization, Pell, and these things, that we have got to start there. And I even want to say we've got to start with this board too. And shame on anyone in this room that is not engaged in making sure that this board isn't represented by people who have a passion and a love for community colleges and the work that it does. And the same needs to be applied to every person elected to our legislature and every person that is elected to our Congress. If they don't pass that test, shame on you if they get elected. You have got to engage. And for the reauthorization, all of these things, find out these issues from Don and get involved in making sure the people that are going to be getting elected and representing you understand them as well.
Any other questions? And just to comment, thank you so much, Don. I love presentations, so you're right on.
Very good.
And obviously Mesa did a good job. But the thing that I want to bring up that I think is sometimes missed is how much in the last year or two that we've really done a good job through the Chancellor and Randy Timmons of bringing in the industry partners. You brought several of them up there, and that was certainly done over the years, but it's really a focus right now to get those partners in our camp. And I applaud all those that are working on it, and Randy's department especially, and of course the Chancellor is out there knocking on doors asking for money, but it's so important to have them on our side as we progress into the future, maybe another bond election. So thanks for bringing that to our attention.
I was impressed by all of the activities this month and how hard you're working, and we appreciate that. I think we ought to give Ms. Wallace the rest of the night off.
Thank you very much, Don. And we're about to give everybody the night off here, but before I do, we've got a lot of meetings coming up here in the next few weeks, and I'll just identify the fact that November 13th, we've got an orientation for the newly elected board members as well as our existing board members. That's on the 13th. On the 18th, we'll have a gender review, and in all likelihood, we'll hold that meeting at the Rio Conference Center, as we will the following meeting in that same date will be the annual outcomes monitoring retreat. It's all public meetings. The monitoring report is one of the more important meetings of the year, so we invite you to attend that meeting. On November 25th, we'll have a gender review and a regular board meeting. That may or may not be held here. But
we're going to try to make sure we can hear, but we'll post it.
Okay. Look on the website to find out exactly where it is going to be. It's either going to be in this room or over at the Rio Conference Center. December 4th will be another board orientation. That will be held at the Rio Conference Center. And on December 9th, we have our regular board meeting, probably be held here as well. But check the website to find out the locations. We're going to do some remodeling stuff here in our boardrooms during that time. So thank you very much for attending tonight. This meeting is adjourned.